Halloween night in the small town of Ravenshade always had a strange chill about it. Not just the crisp bite of October air, something else, something that seemed to sink beneath the skin. Every year, the local kids dared each other to do something stupid. Egg a cop car, break into the old mill. But this year, the dare was different. This year, it was about the Hollow Creek School. The place had been boarded up for nearly 40 years. Everyone in town knew the stories, how a fire had taken the lives of 11 children and their teacher in 1983. The building still stood at the edge of the woods, its windows black and its walls swallowed by vines. "Come on, man," said Ethan, his breath fogging up the air as he adjusted the flashlight in his hand. "You seriously think ghosts care about Halloween?" Beside him, Mia gave a nervous laugh. "You're the one who said it was just a story." "I said it was probably a story," she replied, pulling her jacket tighter. Behind them were Jake and Ava, both 17, dating, both trying too hard to look unbothered. And then there was Noah, the quiet one, walking a few steps behind, camera in hand. He was live streaming everything. The title of his video read, "Exploring Haunted Hollow Creek School, Halloween Special." The old chain-link fence was half collapsed. They slipped through easily, crunching over dead leaves until the looming silhouette of the school swallowed the moonlight. It looked like it was holding its breath. The door groaned open like something in pain. Inside, the air was thick with dust. Old desks lay overturned. The chalkboard still bore faint writing. October 31st, 1983, spelling quiz. Their flashlights cut through the dark, beams catching glimpses of broken glass and peeling paint. "Okay, this is creepy," Mia whispered. Jake grinned. "That's the point, babe. We film, we scream, we go viral." Noah said nothing, but kept his camera rolling. The faint red light blinked like a heartbeat. As they explored, they found classrooms frozen in time, books scattered, drawings still taped to the walls, now yellowed and torn. Ethan kicked something on the floor and froze. It was a child's shoe, small, burnt around the edges. "Dude," he muttered, "this place shouldn't still have this stuff." A faint sound echoed from the hallway, like a door creaking open somewhere deeper in the building. They all turned. "Probably the wind," Jake said, though his voice cracked slightly. "Yeah," Noah replied quietly, "except the air's dead in here. There is no wind." They followed the sound, the beam of Noah's camera flickering over faded lockers. At the end of the corridor was a door labeled Room 12, Miss Harper. "That's where it happened," Mia whispered. "That's the room where the fire started." Jake smirked. "Only one way to find out." The door creaked open. The air inside was colder, unnaturally cold. Desks were still arranged in neat rows, though some were charred. On the far wall, written in black soot, were names, 11 of them, children's names, and below, a 12th, Miss Harper. "What the hell?" Ethan whispered. Ava shivered. "Who wrote that?" Noah zoomed in on the names. "They say the fire started in this room during class, but when the firefighters arrived, the doors were locked from the outside." Mia frowned. "Who locked them?" Noah didn't answer. He just kept filming. Then, from behind the teacher's desk, came a faint scratching sound. They froze. The scratching grew louder, turning into a slow, deliberate dragging noise, as if something was crawling just out of sight. Jake swallowed hard. "Okay, screw this." He stepped forward, and the classroom door slammed shut behind them. The lights flickered. For a moment, everything went black. When they came back, something had changed. The chalkboard was clean again. The air smelled of smoke, and the sound of children whispering filled the room. "Do you hear that?" Mia gasped. Voices, faint and overlapping, like a classroom in session. But there was no one there. Then the bell rang. Not faint, not imagined. The actual school bell, shrill and echoing through the halls. Noah's camera began to glitch. For a split second, through the static, they saw shapes. Children,
sitting at their desks, staring forward with hollow eyes. Ava screamed. Ethan grabbed the door handle, pulling. It wouldn't budge. From behind the teacher's desk, the dragging sound returned. "Who's there?" Jake shouted. The scratching stopped. Then something small rolled across the floor toward them, a piece of chalk. It began writing on the board, on its own. "Stay for class." The desks creaked. One by one, the old wooden chairs turned toward them. The air filled with smoke again, thick, choking. Mia coughed, waving her hands in front of her face. "Noah, turn off the camera," she shouted. But Noah didn't move. He was frozen, staring through his viewfinder. And on the screen, not through his eyes, but only on the camera, he could see them. The children. Burned, skin blackened and peeling, empty sockets where eyes should have been. They sat at their desks, motionless, staring. Then one of them turned. A small girl with blonde braids melted into her skull. She looked directly at the lens and smiled. "Why did you lock us in, Miss Harper?" The sound wasn't in the air. It was in Noah's head. He dropped the camera back and away. "We have to get out of here." But the door wouldn't move. Ava tried the window, nailed shut. Jake kicked at it until his foot bled. Nothing. Then, faintly, they heard it. Footsteps, heels clicking on the linoleum floor outside the classroom. Someone or something was coming. The footsteps stopped outside the door. A woman's shadow appeared under the crack. Then the door opened, silently this time. And in the doorway stood a figure. A woman in a soot-stained teacher's dress, her face blackened, her skin blistered, her smile impossibly wide. "Class," she said softly. "You're late." Her voice was calm, almost gentle, but carried a hollow echo like coming from the bottom of a well. "Please don't," Mia whispered. Miss Harper looked at her, tilting her head. "You shouldn't have come back." Noah trembled. "We're not supposed to be here." "Oh," she interrupted, "but you were here." The words hung heavy. "What do you mean?" Ethan asked. The teacher stepped closer, the floorboards creaking under her feet. Her burned eyes reflected their flashlights like 2 drops of oil. "You children never left," she said. And then the fire alarms began to scream. Flames erupted along the walls, but there was no heat, only light and sound, the roar of something that wasn't quite real. They were trapped in a memory. The desks caught first, then the curtains. Children screamed, voices from decades ago, overlapping with their own. Mia pulled at the door handle. It was hot now, glowing red. Jake kicked it open with all his strength. The door splintered and they spilled into the hallway. But the hall wasn't the same. It was 1983 again, lockers shining, bulletin boards new, children running in panic, covered in smoke. "We're in the fire," Noah whispered. "We're inside it." "How do we get out?" Ava screamed. A voice behind them whispered, "You can't escape what you've already done." They turned. Miss Harper stood at the end of the hall, holding a class roster. The papers burned in her hands, but didn't turn to ash. "Do you want to know the truth?" she asked. Ethan shouted, "You killed them! You locked the doors!" Miss Harper smiled sadly. "I didn't." She turned the list toward them. Their flashlights illuminated the paper and their own names written on it. Mia, Ethan, Jake, Ava, Noah. "No," Mia whispered. "That's not possible." "You were my students," the teacher said softly. "You stayed after school that day. You thought it would be funny to scare me. You lit the candles, remember?" Images flooded their minds, flashes of memory that weren't their own. Children laughing, a prank gone wrong, a candle falling, curtains catching fire, screams. "You trapped yourselves here, Miss Harper, and every Halloween you return, pretending you're new, pretending you're alive." Noah dropped his flashlight. It clattered to the floor, beam spinning across the wall. Reflected in the light, not teenagers, but burned skeletal figures staring back from the glass of a broken cabinet. Them. The sirens of fire trucks wailed somewhere distant, from another time. Smoke curled along the ceiling as the bell began to ring again, over and over. Mia screamed, covering her ears. Ethan tried to run, but the floorboards gave way beneath him, into blackness, into flame. Jake held Ava as the fire consumed them, their bodies vanishing into ash. Noah tried to film, but the lens melted in his hands. And through it all, Miss Harper's calm voice rose above the chaos. Class dismissed.